Most men spend their entire lives reacting to women. They chase, they adapt, they try to impress. But behind female behavior, there are invisible psychological weaknesses, patterns hardwired by nature, by emotion, and by centuries of survival instinct. And the man who learns to see these weaknesses doesn't chase women. He controls the game they don't even realize they're playing. This is not about being toxic. It's about understanding female psychology so deeply that you can lead the dynamic with calm authority, respect, and power. Because when you master these truths, you don't manipulate. You become the rare man she values above everyone else. Stay until the end. Because once you understand these 8 hidden weaknesses, you'll operate on a level most men never even see. Let's begin. Weakness 1. Use or desire for validation. Every woman you'll ever meet carries a silent hunger, the desire to feel uniquely seen, not just notice her looks, not flattered by generic compliments, but recognized, as if you see inside her mind in ways no one else ever has. Machiavelli would say, the masses seek approval, but the powerful seek recognition of what makes them rare. Let's make this real. You meet a beautiful woman. Every man tells her, you're so gorgeous. You have such a beautiful smile. You're amazing. She's heard it all, thousands of times. But then you do something different. You notice how she subtly calms the energy of a room. You mention how she pays attention to details others miss. You compliment the way her voice slows down when she's passionate. Suddenly, she freezes inside. Her mind whispers, how does he see that? No one ever notices that about me. And in that moment, you stop being another man. You become the only man who sees her full dimension. That creates emotional gravity. In long-term relationships, this weakness remains. Most husbands stop seeing. You never do. You continue noticing tiny evolutions in her mood, appearance, and dreams. Things even she didn't realize changed. She attaches to you deeply because you reflect a mirror few can hold up. Here's your next move. Never give surface compliments. Pay surgical attention to what makes her uniquely different and voice it with calm precision. Because once she feels seen in ways no other man offers, her emotional bond to you becomes irreplaceable. Now let's move forward. Because once you've satisfied her need to feel seen, you unlock her second weakness, her craving for emotional novelty. Weakness 2. Use emotional variety to keep her addicted. Here's a brutal truth most men ignore. Women aren't addicted to stability. They're addicted to emotional variety when delivered by a stable man. Machiavelli would phrase it like this. Men obey stability. Women orbit unpredictability. Why? Because certainty bores the feminine mind. Predictability makes her feel safe, but kills her desire. Let's set the scene. You're on your 4th date. Every man she's dated before falls into one of 2 traps. Either emotionally flat, robotic, polite, predictable, or unstable. Too dramatic, needy, reactive. You do neither. You shift gears effortlessly. One evening you're playful, teasing her like no one else dares. The next you're quiet, deep, pulling her into philosophical conversations she never expected. Then you suddenly surprise her with a private adventure she didn't anticipate. Sometimes you text first. Sometimes you disappear for hours. Focus on your mission. She can never fully predict your rhythm, and that mystery keeps her emotionally locked in. In long-term relationships, the same rule applies. Most men collapse into routine after months, even years, together. But you introduce micro-unpredictability, spontaneous getaways, unexpected moments of depth, new personal goals that force her to adapt and stay engaged. Her mind never fully relaxes into boredom, because you keep feeding her craving for fresh emotional stimulus within the safety of your leadership. Here's your next move. Engineer variety inside your emotional presence, not through chaos, but through calibrated shifts in energy, depth, and focus. Because when she never fully predicts you, she never fully detaches. Now let's move forward. Because once her mind is addicted to your unpredictability, another deeper fear surfaces. The fear of social downgrade. Weakness 3. Build social status. She's afraid to lose. Women don't just pick a man for how he makes them feel. They pick him for what he represents to others, her friends, her family, her social network. Her entire identity subtly attaches to your perceived value. Machiavelli understood this deeply. People are less loyal to the person and more loyal to the status attached to the person. Let's make this painfully real. You start dating her. Suddenly her friends whisper, "Wow, he's so confident. He's on his purpose. He carries himself differently." Even her family observes your discipline, your composure, your progress. Even when she's emotionally frustrated, her subconscious whispers, "If I lose him, what will people think? Can I find someone at his level again?" In a committed relationship, this weakness intensifies. As you continue to build your life, career, physique, wisdom, network, her identity intertwines with yours. Losing you would not just be emotional pain, it would be social downgrade. Her self-image would suffer. The fear of that public loss keeps her deeply invested. Here's your next move. Continuously elevate your public and private status. Not to impress her, but to solidify your position as an undeniable asset to her identity. Because when staying with you protects her social standing, she'll guard the relationship fiercely. Now let's move forward. Because once her identity is tied to you externally, her inner feminine polarity seeks something even more primal, the relief of controlled submission. Weakness 4, her desire for submission, led with calm authority, so she can finally submit. No matter how independent, accomplished, or strong a woman appears, her biology craves one thing from the right man: the ability to surrender without losing herself. Machiavelli never spoke of romance, but his core principle applies perfectly. The governed feels safest under strong but predictable rule. You see, submission has nothing to do with dominance games. It's about providing leadership so firm, so fair, so stable, that she can finally relax her constant need to control everything. Let's visualize this. You're seeing a highly successful, independent woman. Every man before you either fears her strength and submits to her decisions, tries to compete and dominate her aggressively. You do neither. You calmly make decisions. You set the plan for dates. You set boundaries with grace. You hold her accountable gently but firmly when emotions spike. And without realizing it, she exhales. Finally, a man she doesn't have to lead, a man whose decisions she trusts. In long-term relationships, this becomes even more potent. During stressful life changes, careers, finances, family, she instinctively looks to you for leadership. Your steady vision removes her hidden anxieties. Here's your next move. Make decisions confidently. Lead conversations. Set boundaries. Provide clarity when she spirals emotionally. Because when she feels safe surrendering to your leadership, her loyalty intensifies far beyond physical attraction. Now let's move forward. Because even the strongest leadership triggers hidden vulnerabilities, especially inside her own independence. Weakness 5, her hyper-independence exhaustion. Let her independence collapse into your leadership. Many women wear independence like armor, not because they don't want leadership, but because they've rarely met men capable of holding it. Their independence often hides silent exhaustion, always being strong, always making decisions, always protecting themselves emotionally. Machiavelli would observe, strength projected without necessity often hides unspoken weakness. Let's make this vivid. You meet a woman who constantly says, "I don't need anyone. I handle everything myself. I'm fine on my own." Most men try to match that energy. They either become passive, letting her lead, or they push aggressively, triggering resistance. You approach differently. You never challenge her independence. You respect it. You let her lead where she excels, but you quietly provide stability where she secretly craves relief. You lead decisively in crisis. You handle conflicts with calm authority. You remove decision fatigue in areas she quietly despises. And slowly, her armor softens. She feels a safety she rarely experiences. I can finally relax around him. In long-term relationships, this becomes her deepest relief, to remain strong in public, but to release control privately under your leadership. Here's your next move. Respect her strength, but never abdicate leadership. Fill the spaces where her independence secretly drains her, because when she feels relief inside your presence, She willingly chooses submission without ever feeling weak. Now let's move forward. Because once her guard drops, her ego still tests your strength. And that's where her next weakness emerges. Weakness 6. Her ego. Her fragile ego breaks when your frame never moves. Here's what most men misunderstand about female tests. They're not about the man. They're about her own ego seeking security. Machiavelli would say, the ruler tests his guards not to destroy them, but to verify their loyalty. When a woman tests you, emotionally, verbally, or behaviorally, she's exposing her own fragile need to know if you can handle her intensity. Let's set the scene. She makes a sarcastic jab at your hobbies. She flirts with mild disrespect to provoke a reaction. She withdraws affection to see if you'll chase. Most men crumble. They defend themselves. They escalate arguments. They apologize excessively. Instead, you respond with surgical calm, a raised eyebrow, a slow smile, a simple redirect. Are you done? Good. Let's continue. Her mind absorbs a powerful message. He doesn't dance for my approval. I cannot destabilize him. In long-term dynamics, these tests evolve. Financial stress, family tensions, long-term emotional conflicts. But you remain the same. Calm, centered, unshaken. Here's your next move. Never argue when tested. Never emotionally defend yourself. Hold steady posture. Redirect calmly. Because when her ego realizes she can't move you, her respect and desire deepen permanently. Now let's move forward. Because once you pass her tests, you gain access to her most sensitive attachment point, her emotional memories. Weakness 7. Her need for experience. Create irreplaceable emotional memories. She can't forget. Unlike men, women emotionally anchor to experiences, not just logic. Every unique moment you create becomes a psychological hook that binds her to you long after the moment passes. Machiavelli observed, victory is cemented not by words, but by the unforgettable nature of the conquest. Let's visualize it. You take her to a hidden rooftop she's never seen. You introduce her to intellectual discussions no man dared to explore with her. You create inside jokes, private rituals, spontaneous adventures. These aren't random. They're psychological anchors. No man after you can replicate them. In long-term relationships, you continue. Private financial strategies, joint challenges you overcome together, milestones achieved side by side. When conflict arises later, her mind doesn't simply calculate, do I still love him? Her mind screams, how could I give up everything we built together? The more unique your shared experiences, the heavier her emotional cost of losing you becomes. Here's your next move. Create rare, personal experiences no other man can duplicate, not through extravagance, but through personalization. Because when your history together becomes sacred in her mind, replacement feels impossible. Now let's move forward. Because once her emotional history belongs to you, one final weakness locks her fully under your influence. Weakness 8. Scarcity of being understood. Understand her deeper than anyone ever has. Most women carry this silent wound. They feel deeply unseen, even by men who claim to love them. Surface-level attention is common for women. It's cheap, but true understanding is rare and precious. Machiavelli would say, what few can offer becomes the most valuable currency. You exploit this by becoming a man who listens between her words, who sees her emotional patterns, who decodes her mood shifts without accusation, who gently reflects truths she barely articulates. Let's make it real. She opens up about childhood wounds. Other men dismiss it or offer generic comfort. Instead, you calmly say, you've carried that for years, haven't you? But it made you stronger, and I respect how you still move forward. Her eyes widen. Her guard collapses. Finally, someone who sees her fully. And once she tastes that level of understanding, she fears losing a man who sees her depths without judgment. In long-term relationships, this weakness only deepens. During her self-doubt phases, during life transitions like the loss of a loved one, during conflict with others, you remain her emotional mirror, steady, understanding, never reactive. Here's your next move. Listen beyond her words. Spot her unspoken fears. Reflect her growth back to her without controlling her. Because when a woman feels fully seen, she never risks losing the one man who understands her soul. Now you see the path hidden from most men, not designed for manipulation, but for true masculine mastery. You're not here to seek approval. You're not here to chase love. You're here to stand as the man every woman silently hopes to meet, but few ever find. Because while others drown in neediness, while others beg for affection, while others surrender their frame, you rise. You build unshakable gravity, the kind no woman can easily escape. Machiavelli never taught control through force. He taught sovereignty through presence. You are not another man. You are the exception. You are the standard she cannot replace. And when a woman feels both elevated by you and afraid to lose you, she no longer evaluates her options. She locks herself to you, not by force, by pure psychological gravity. Walk forward now, because the man who masters female psychology at this depth doesn't compete. He reigns in silence, without effort, without limits. If this opened your eyes and you're serious about becoming the man who's in full control of his life, my book is now available, The Undeniable Man, Built to be Chosen. It's a strategic guide for men who want to attract, lead, and dominate in their love life and beyond. Whether you're single or in a relationship, no fluff, no tricks, just pure, powerful strategy that will set you apart from 99% of men, and that you'll actually use every day. The link is in the description. And if this video spoke to you, don't just keep your thoughts in your head. Write a comment, even just a few words. It helps you remember these lessons, and it might help someone else, too. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this content, and share it with someone who, in your eyes, needs it right now. Just trust your instinct. We're all trying to get clearer, more solid inside. So let's build minds that don't break.